I like the story about Henry David Thoreau who, when he was on his deathbed, his family sent for a minister. The minister said, "Henry, have you made your peace with God?" Thoreau said, "I didn't know we'd quarreled." "Trust me, God doesn't wait for you to die before punishing you. Chances are he's already sent you to hell more than once in your lifetime. He dips you in, hopes you've learned, and pulls you back out again. And when you finally get to heaven, he has that annoying smirk on his face." There are moments in life that seem small when they happen. A short conversation, a quiet decision, a promise spoken between two people that no one else hears. Most of the time those moments disappear into memory like footprints washed away by the rain. But every once in a while, one of them refuses to disappear. Many years ago, I made a promise that would change my life forever. At the time, it sounded simple enough. I made a promise to a girl that 1 year from that day, on the first day of spring, I would return with a single red rose. And I would do it again the following year, and the year after that. I told her I would bring her one red rose every year on the first day of spring for 12 years. It seemed like a romantic idea at the time. A strange little ritual between two people. Something symbolic, something poetic, a ritual of devotion, a way to actually prove my love for her, a way to become worthy of her heart. But time has a way of changing the meaning of things. The first year passed, and when spring returned, I kept the promise. I delivered the first rose. The second spring arrived, and the second rose followed. By the third year, something unusual began to happen. What had started as a simple promise began to feel like a ritual. Every year on the same day, I arrived. I kept my promise, and I delivered to her a single red rose with no expectations, wants, or desires. I wanted to be completely selfless. This fairy tale was not for me. It was for her. When something repeats itself at the exact same moment every year after year, it begins to carry a different kind of weight. By the fourth rose, the connection between us felt almost supernatural. I could feel her from great distances. I knew any time something had happened to her, or if she was distraught, not unlike a parent instinctively knowing something had happened to their child. A gut instinct had formed, a connection of simply knowing, of being connected like quantum entanglement. It was an eerie thing, an unexplainable thing. Every year winter ended, every year the first day of spring returned, and every year I kept my promise and returned with a single red rose. But stories rarely unfold the way we expect them to. Shortly after the fourth rose, the spell was broken. Betrayal has a way of doing that. One moment the story feels like it's moving towards an inevitable destiny. The next moment a single decision changes everything. The map of the future disappears. The natural course of events shifts into an entirely different timeline where what would have happened never happened. The magic that had built itself slowly across 4 springs shattered like breaking glass. Most people would have ended the ritual there. But promises and honor are strange things for me. Once spoken, they tend to linger longer than the emotions that created them. So, When the next first day of spring arrived again, I returned with a 5th rose. My greatest act of selflessness. My heart broken, my soul crushed, my pride taken, and I still kept my promise. But that 5th rose carried a different meaning. It was not a renewal. It was a goodbye. After that moment, I left and exiled myself into the emerald forest over 100 miles away. Because sometimes, being in love with someone means becoming a stranger. I said goodbye, gave her the last rose and a gentle hug. Then I walked away from my city and into the wilderness. Some of you know what came next. Years spent traveling through the forest, rivers, and forgotten places. And I became a ruthless monster that no one could stop. All of that betrayal and pain and loss poured out into an unsuspecting world. The wilderness does something to a person if they stay there long enough. It strips away distractions. It reduces life to its simplest elements. The sound of the wind in the trees, the rhythm of footsteps on a trail, the quiet conversations you eventually have with your own thoughts. You become a purely instinctive creature, more like a wild animal than a man. Years pass that way, and time has a peculiar effect on memory. Moments that once felt painful begin to soften. Moments that once seemed ordinary begin to reveal their hidden importance. And after years, I escaped my self-imposed exile and returned home. Tiffen looked much the same as it always had. The same streets, the same river winding its way through town, the same old buildings watching quietly as another generation moved through their shadows. But I was seeing it differently. I was not the same person I was when I left. When you leave a place long enough and then come back, you begin to notice details that were invisible before. Small patterns in the city's history. Stories hidden in the spaces between the ones people usually tell. She's still here. The girl I gifted the rose to? She will never leave Tiffen like I did. In order to prove that true love exists, I had to leave so that she could actually have it with someone else. Exile was my only option. I was gone for over a decade. When I returned from the wilderness, I was a very different person from the one she remembers. While I was gone, her life went on without me in it. When she had learned that I returned, she told me that we could never be close to each other again. Proximity alone could destroy the life that she has now, and everything she spent all these years building. It would unravel the entire narrative on my side, too. We are forced to do our best to remain apart. We can never actually be physically close to each other again. Not for more than a few moments, and even those moments are dangerous. When we are in proximity to each other, something ethereal starts pounding outward like waves in the ether of the air. Like the fabric of time itself is under immense stress and beginning to fray at its seams. We don't feel our love for each other when it happens. We feel fear. Like standing next to each other is putting all of existence in danger. The love and connection we once had with each other is a kind of love and connection ancient gods once started wars over in the old myths. Mortals were never meant to attain it, and those who have often find that the gods curse them for it. There are ancient myths about that too. We are no different. Same story, different century. So, we agreed to avoid each other and keeping everything from our past locked away behind a red door in our minds and in our hearts. What's done is done. The original spell was broken. Her betrayal inerasable. We are not the same people we were back then. And the years spent in the Emerald Forest had done something to me that could never be undone. Dark, ancient things that we should never bring up again. Still, come the first day of spring, we still wish each other a happy anniversary. Nothing more. Just a simple 2-word text from a distance acknowledging the profound impact we will forever have on each other's lives. Then we break that brief moment of connection again until the next first day of spring. She has her version of a fairy tale. I'm still searching for mine. I came back to Tiffen with the lingering hope of one day finding it. And that was when something unexpected happened. The roses returned. Not as gifts to an unrequited love, but they're everywhere throughout the city now. Downtown in the historical district, along Frost Parkway, scattered about campus and private gardens. I even grow new ones every year myself. And thus they became the symbol of an epic story. What once had been a private ritual between two people slowly began to reveal itself as something larger, a thread running quietly through the years, a symbol that had followed the journey longer than I had realized. I began looking back at the pattern, the promise made all those years ago, the first rose delivered on the first day of spring, the ritual repeated year after year, the betrayal after the 4th rose, the 5th rose given as a farewell before walking into the wilderness. In a strange way, the symbol of the rose eventually found its way back into the story when I returned. Patterns like that have a way of capturing a person's attention, especially whenever they unfold across more than a decade. The city itself seems to carry echoes of those moments now. 200 years of footsteps have passed through these streets. Settlers arrived here along the Sandusky River long before any of us were born, building homes and communities in a place where the paths naturally crossed. Most of their stories have faded, but every city keeps a few. A few moments of what quietly shapes what comes after. Sometimes they begin with something as simple as a promise. Sometimes they begin with a single rose. Looking back now, I'm not entirely sure the rose meant what I originally believed they meant. At the time, I thought they were part of a promise between two people. Now I'm beginning to wonder if they were measuring something else. Time has a way of revealing patterns we couldn't see while we were living through them. 12 roses, 12 years, 12 numbers on a clock face, 12 months in a year. Circles are divided into 360 degrees, which is a multiple of 12. 12 also has a deep cultural significance representing completeness and harmony. Maybe the roses aren't roses at all. Maybe they're just a manifestation of time. Nodes on a web. Which is why the past, present, and future all blur together on this channel, in my daily life and in my story. I'm scattered throughout time, and each rose is a stepping off point to different eras where I can learn and recount different stories. 14 years ago, I thought I was simply giving someone a flower. Years later, I walked into the wilderness and became something else entirely. And now the story of those roses has found its way into the life of a city. Some stories end when the moment that created them passes. Others take years before they begin to reveal what they are really about. And sometimes the meaning of a promise doesn't become clear until long after the person who made it has changed. The first day of spring still arrives every year. The city still wakes slowly as the seasons turn. And somewhere in the quiet history of this place, a story continues to grow from a moment that looked small when it first happened. A promise made many years ago. A ritual repeated beneath the returning spring. A man who walked into the wilderness and eventually came home again. And a single red rose that may have been pointing towards something far larger than anyone realized at the time. Because sometimes we believe we are giving meaning to a symbol, only to discover years later that the symbol was quietly giving meaning to us. Once upon a time, I created a real-world fairy tale for a girl, magic included. And in return, she gifted me with a broken heart. So, I simply grew myself a new one. But that is a story for another time.